Hey guys, Jay here. I had this wonderful idea to start a series where, as a stay-at-home mom who's also a full-time work-from-home mom, I kind of touch base on a lot of the feelings that I'm feeling throughout the day, um, and just like things that I come across when I'm kind of like doom scrolling, as we all do, on TikTok. Um, where like you come across something, you're like, oh God, that's super relatable. Or you come across something, you're like, gosh, I cannot relate to that person. I must be failing. And so the idea is that like, as moms, as stay-at-home moms, as work-from-home moms, um, I'm just a regular mom, regular schmegular person. And I feel like maybe hearing the reality of what it feels like to be a mom from someone who you could be walking by at the park or, standing next to at the grocery store might resonate and let you know that you're not alone for thinking the thoughts that you think and feeling the way that you feel. And it doesn't make you appreciate being a mom any less. That said, the first thing I wanted to kind of touch on was identity. And that's something that I think that I personally struggle with a lot. Before I had kids, I grew up in New York City. Obviously, I moved around a lot. And I felt like a huge part of like who I was rooted in being like a New York City girl through and through, like being creative, being around like diversity and just eating the fun foods. And then obviously once you hit adulthood and you're in your 20s, you're, dancing and enjoying cocktails and you're just kind of living for yourself. And then when you become a mom, it kind of changes overnight. I feel like it definitely changed for me during pregnancy, my first pregnancy. Just so everybody knows, I have two kids. I have a 2.5-year-old girl, super crazy, super silly. I love her to bits. Every bit of me in a tiny size, sass and all. And then I have a 12-month, he's about to be 12-month-old boy. So I have my boy and my girl, and obviously they're both very young, only 18 months apart. And so I'm still very much in the throes of those baby years, right? The toddler years, which toddler years are insane. And then you throw in a baby during those toddler years who's now turning into a toddler. And I just feel like half the time I'm pulling my hair out. And then the other half, I'm kind of just there. But and the crazy thing is like when it comes to identity, like I have this like idea of who I was and somewhere in between of where I am now, right? I don't feel like I necessarily have an identity. Obviously, I'm a mom of two and I'm a marketing manager for an insurance agency, and those are things that people identify as, right? That's your identity. Yeah, and so I had my New York City identity, and at that point, I was in my 20s. I left New York City with my husband 5 years ago, and I feel like I was leaving a big part of me already at that point. And then when I got pregnant, I was obviously scared and terrified and worried because I wasn't even really sure if I necessarily wanted kids at that point. But obviously we were actively trying. So there was a part of me that wanted it. And as with anything that's different, there were nerves. But I could tell you like the transition of like how I thought from a selfish standpoint. And I use the word selfish very loosely. What I mean is like from a me perspective, right? It was pre-kids. What do I want to do? What do I want to eat today? How do I want to spend my day? And then in pregnancy, it was like, okay, is my baby okay? Am I getting the right nutrients for my baby? Am I, going to the doctors when I need to be going to the doctors? Is my baby moving enough in my belly? Is my baby moving enough in my belly? Should I induce my baby? Or should I let myself go over, Like your brain already starts to just like translate and switch and like gear into like a much more, I guess, decentered version of how you think, because now it's like turning into the baby. And then obviously Scarlett was born and my world changed. I decided to take a bit of a break from work and be a stay-at-home mom. And so I have the experience of being a stay-at-home mom, also being just a work-from-home girl with no kids, being an office girl with no kids, being a stay-at-home mom with one kid. And then when my second came around, by that point I had already started working. And that's when I feel like I don't even know, like, I would even say, like, I had an identity crisis with Scarlett as a stay-at-home mom, because so much of who we were, especially like who I was growing up in New York City and then having my career in New York City and being in marketing and doing all these things with startups, like that was my identity. My career was my identity. And then when I stepped away from my career and I started to focus on my daughter, a part of me was like, okay, well, let me center my world around my daughter. And as much as I love her and I felt fulfilled by her, I was always almost like embarrassed to be a stay-at-home mom because I didn't feel seen or heard or appreciated. I didn't feel like I was contributing enough, be it to the house or just to society. And when I would see other moms who were working, I always felt like inadequate. So it was a different struggle being a stay-at-home mom with my identity, because I almost felt like I was less than everybody. And then on the flip side, when I started working again, my career has always been focused within operations and marketing on leadership level. And as any of you guys know, that usually takes a lot of mental demand. It takes a lot of focus because you're handling a lot of different things. You're managing a lot of different people. And it was such a shock. It was like, whoa, I jumped from not working, being a stay-at-home mom with just my child, to having 2 under 2 and working this full-time leadership role. And it just feels like you're drowning, right? And so during the day, I'm constantly saying, like, gosh, am I a good mother? Gosh, did I give my 12-month-old enough attention? Gosh, was I too mean to my 2-year-old? Gosh, did I do enough, work today? Gosh, did I answer my employees correctly? Gosh, did I achieve quota? Am I adding value to my place that I'm working at? I don't even have time to think about anything outside of, are my babies okay? And is my job okay? Everything else takes a step back. So like, I do not talk to my friends anymore. I do not have time to talk to my friends anymore. I don't have the energy to talk to my friends anymore because my son's waking up at 5 a.m. and my daughter shortly after. And then you're kind of going through the whole day trying to work every few minutes and then taking a step to change a diaper, to, figure out why someone's crying, to put someone down for a nap, to make sure that, your 2-year-old isn't, breaking the house down, right? And then at the end of the day, you're in this like wave of like just trying to get through the next portion of the day, get through the next period of time that you're like rushing to get the kids down, and then they're down and you finally have a breath of fresh air at like 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, and you don't want to do anything. You don't want to think. You don't want to like if I didn't have kids, maybe I would find myself doing a hobby, working out. Like I loved working out before I had kids. Now I don't have the energy for it, and if I do find energy for it, I'm like completely wiped out. It's like maxing yourself out to the last. And so with that being said, sometimes it feels like so much of motherhood, when you are staying at home or you're working from home and you're trying to do both of it at the same time, so much of it feels like it's just survival mode, that you don't really care about necessarily Like you're caring about all these different things, but you're not really caring about it, right? You're not really saying, who am I outside of being a mother to my children? Who am I outside of this like job that I'm working so that I can make sure that my children, can have a good Christmas, can, do whatever they want. You don't have you don't have that identity. And I think that that's okay. I think that it's to be expected. I know for myself, I have to tell myself all the time that like one day they're going to be older and focusing on work is going to be easier and they're going to be less dependent on me. And that in its of itself is going to be the heartache, right? Like, where did my babies go? Where did this time go? And I think you'll start to get a sense of like who you are as that happens. And I'm just assuming because I'm obviously nowhere near there. And if you guys are there, obviously let me know because that's what I'm hoping is going to happen. So before I became a mom, I would say I was very bubbly, curious, creative, free-spirited, just kind of go with the flow person. I grew up in New York City. I grew up around great food, great culture. Obviously, once I entered into my adulthood and I was able to I was working and I was making money and I can enjoy cocktails and going out and, hanging out with friends like that. Like, obviously, your standard New York City typical experience. And then me and my husband decided to move to Charleston right around COVID. And I think that was a period of really like truly finding out who I was. I felt so free, so happy. I was in an environment that I felt truly represented who I was. This like laid back, but like super interested in just life, right? I was working out all the time. Fitness has always been something that was very near and dear to my heart. I was really expressive with my fashion, best shape that I probably have ever been in. I was making friends. It was a really good point in my life, which I think is why I would say that there's been a good bit of struggle between entering into motherhood with 2 under 2 within like a 3-year time period. Than necessarily others have had. If I had to like think about how my identity, like if I had to think about what I thought my future would look like, I didn't think I was going to have kids. They weren't in my parameter or view scope. I kind of just thought that I was going to kind of live life, climb the operations or marketing ladder in corporate, or the startup world and travel more. I think I was like eyeing, being a VP somewhere eventually one day, and just kind of traveling to different locations, which is really funny given now that I'm a stay-at-home work-from-home mom where I don't travel. I'm still doing the marketing stuff, but definitely not what I thought I would be. I don't work out anymore. I don't really have the opportunity to hang out with friends. There's a lot of stuff that like, and this is kind of where I want to say like, it's comparison is your biggest thief. And if you are going to compare yourself when you were able to think selfishly and self-centeredly versus as a mother where you're almost forced to think and put yourself last for the benefit and the love of your children, because that's what motherhood is about, right? It's constantly putting yourself last and constantly thinking about how your child's childhood is going to be shaped so that they feel secure and loved and wanted and happy. You're not going to be, you're going to think, oh God, why did I become a mother? And that's okay to have those moments of like, why did I become a mom? I think we all have those moments where we just kind of want to run away or just lock ourselves in a quiet, dark room and get untouched and uncensored and not have to think. But we persevere, right? We keep moving. And if we keep moving and we keep pushing past those periods of overwhelming, debilitating anxiety and just lack of self-worth, you will see the beauty that motherhood is. And it's watching your children grow. It's watching these amazing humans develop into their own personalities. My daughter is super funny and super silly, and goodness, she's so sassy. And then my son, he's so smart. He's like a climbing little gorilla. And I wouldn't trade it for the world, even if it's a harder version of my life now. And it's maybe less enjoyable in the sense of like personal stuff. I still wouldn't trade that. Do I miss sleep? Yes. I've missed sleep for like 2.5, 3 years now, I would say. And I don't think I'm going to get to enjoy sleep anytime soon. I think I got another 2 years of no sleep just because my babies like to sleep with me, and I'm not going to reject them on that. So another thing that I want to say that I noticed and I thought was really crazy was the internal shift that happens. For me, it happened during pregnancy with my first. Beforehand, it was always like, I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm going to drink all the Celsius I want to drink. I'm going to, me. And then the moment you get pregnant with your first, you're like 8 weeks, 9 weeks, 10 weeks. Is the baby kicking it? Is the baby kicking enough? Did I eat something that I shouldn't have eaten? Oh my God, deli meat. Why did I eat deli meat? I didn't know I can't eat deli meat. If it was steamed, was it steamed enough? Am I sleeping enough? Did I take the right medication? Should I get vaccinated or not vaccinated? All these different questions that you never would have cared about before getting pregnant with your first, you just start to think about. Even down to like how you're laying. You don't want to lay in the wrong way. You want to make sure that like the side you're laying on is going to provide the most blood to your child, and then you give birth and you're just holding this little baby that you did not realize you were going to love this much. You had this idea, and sure, maybe you loved him or her, but the moment that they're in your arms, it's like, oh God, I'm done for. Like, great. I'm basically just signing myself over emotionally and mentally to be this child's slave, for the best word. I don't even know how to explain it. I don't mean slave in like a negative way, but like you've basically whipped yourself to that child because you were gonna want to do nothing but live for them, which is something that I think mothers need. And I'm actively always trying to like think about that and how it ties to my identity, because there's so many times that motherhood takes over your identity and like you just become a mom and that's how people see you. And if you're not with your children, they're like, well, who's taking care of the kids? Or if you want to take a moment away and go hang out with a friend for a little bit, you almost get guilted into that, and so you end up not having friends. And that identity shift can make it very easy as a mother, especially a new mother with littles, to like not care about that, not care about going to the gym and working out, not caring about hanging out with friends, not caring about climbing the corporate ladder or your career. And I think it's important in us, if you are a working, staying at home mom, to like fight through that. And I know it's easier said than done. Trust me, I live it every day. Some days I just kind of want to rip my hair out and just be done with it. But it's so important to fight through that internal identity shift that is happening, where you're kind of just sitting in the middle of like, okay, am I going to be a mom? Like, is this going to be who I am? And then realizing that you can be a mom, that can be an aspect of your personality, but you can also be a new version of who you are. And I've had this conversation with my longtime best friend now, where she's obviously hasn't had kids yet and might never have kids, and I have two. And the version of each other that we knew pre-kids is very different from the version she knows of me now. And there was a point where like I don't necessarily think she felt like I was interested in her in that friendship, because I just didn't have the energy or the willpower to want to reach out to anybody else, because I was so drowning in motherhood and just focused so much on like my child. And then when I got a career and I had two kids at that point, it was like hat's out the window. I can't talk to my friends. I don't just pretend I don't exist. I love you and just know that I'm there, but like, holy cow. And so I've actively been trying to make sure that it's a two-way street, right? Like if I want to have a sense of self outside of motherhood and these like little baby years, I need to actively put effort into my relationships outside of my children too, right? So like I need to actively invite a friend out to have lunch or dinner. I need to actively message my friend and see if she wants to come visit. I need to actively check in on people because eventually the years of like 3, 4, 5 are going to be gone, and your kids are going to want to hang out with their friends, and you're not going to have any friends because you didn't give two shits about them when you were kind of deep in the throes of the toddler and baby years. So I think that's my one take that I'm personally trying to commit to, and that I would say any mother should try to commit to, is just like remember that like your kids are eventually going to want friends. That is something that you are working actively in their infancy and their toddler years to get them to want to do, is have friends and to socialize. And when they start doing that, you're also going to realize that you need that too. You need that sense of sanity and that sense of self. So with that being said, if you haven't texted your best friend back, or you haven't texted that new mom friend you met the other day, maybe you should do that like right now. Let's see. So what's constantly running through my mind? Okay. So when I was a stay-at-home mom, it was kind of different. It was like, okay, I'm going to wake up. Everything was a little bit more relaxed because like I didn't really have a schedule. I knew that I wanted to make sure the house was cleaned. I wanted to make sure that the groceries were tended to. I wanted to make sure that my child had a home fresh cooked meal. And then I also wanted to make sure that she was entertained and socializing. And so usually I would set up a mom play date somewhere. Maybe I would take her to a museum or a library. Maybe I would just go to the stores with her just to get out and about for a little bit. And then when I became a working stay-at-home mom, I'm a very type A person. So like it's a very structured 5 a.m. with my baby, 5:30, 6 o'clock, the 2-year-old's up, 6:30 to 7, getting ready for work, clock in by 7, 7:30, try to feed my 2-year-old, and then so forth in the day, make sure that my baby's fed, make sure that my 2-year-old has lunch, make sure that she's not on the iPad too long, because you don't want her to be an iPad kid, but she kind of might be a little bit of an iPad kid. Making sure that like you're entertaining and talking and engaging with your baby enough times in the day that you don't feel like they're going to be developmentally delayed. Making sure that your baby isn't trying to kill himself, because my baby likes to crawl out of everything if he can. Making sure my toddler isn't burning down the house. And then in between all that, also just trying to manage, teams, manage workflows, manage deliverables, making sure that my boss is happy, making, creative decisions that are going to positively impact my company. And then back to the kids. Oh, did I pick up my baby enough times? How long was the last time that he used bathroom? Oh, I think he needs a nap. Oh, wait, what about my daughter? Should I like sit down and engage with her for a little bit? Oh, wait, I got to go back to work. And then when I'm off of work, it's like, okay, now I have 3 hours between now and when it's time for dinner. What should I do? Do I clean the house? Do I do the dishes? Do I play with her? Do I go get groceries? Because we haven't had a chance to go get groceries. Or do I just take a moment to take the kids out somewhere and do an activity? Oh, wait, is there dance class? No, never mind. That has to be pushed to another day. And so it's constantly just trying to like manage everything and then get dinner on the table, bedtime's done, and then it's the end of the day and you're just kind of like, whoa, what the F happened? That felt like a tornado. I feel like I'm going to die. I want to go to sleep, and you fall asleep on my couch because, that's just motherhood, right? That's what it is to be a work from home, stay at home mom. It's running on almost empty all day long. My days are like 16 to 17 hours long. And then even when I'm asleep, I'm breastfeeding a baby throughout the night. So, we're struggling, girls. And I think I think it's crazy that we can do that and we can still function and we can still show up to the table and bring some value. I think it's crazy that we can remember everything. We can anticipate not only our children's needs, our employer needs, our husband's needs, our family obligations. I think it's incredibly like insane how we can also be the emotional regulation for everybody, right? Being the default planner, the problem solver, just being everything to everyone and still showing up day in and day out. That in and of itself is enough. That makes you enough. That makes you more than enough. That makes you so incredibly valuable, even in a moment where you might not feel like you are valuable or you feel seen or you even feel like you exist in this world. So yeah. Expose impossible standards. Okay. So most days I feel so guilty. I don't think there's a moment in my day I don't feel guilty. Most of my guilt tends to lie in whether or not I gave my children enough time in the day, if I held them enough, if I had enough eye contact with them, if I gave them enough kisses, if I played with them enough, if I looked at them enough when I was there in the moment with them. Sometimes I'll be like, did I do enough work? But usually when it comes to work, I don't mess around with that. I'm very structured. So as long as I get my tasks for the days done, I'm not really feeling guilty on that part. But most of my guilt is, again, centered around my children. No matter how little in a day, I will always feel guilty, whether it's because I didn't do enough for them, whether it's because I maybe was a little overstimulated and I started getting snappier more consistently with my 2-year-old, or maybe I feel like I went, 2 hours without holding my 12-month-old. There's a lot of things that you feel guilty for, and sometimes that means that after you put them down and you're finally in the quiet that you had been begging and seeking and waiting for all day to have, you are filled with immense amounts of guilt because you are so happy to be in that moment of just, oh my God, there's nobody touching me. There's nobody talking to me. There's nobody here expecting something from me. You have that immediate sense of relief, and then after that relief and those few minutes of silence and not being overstimulated pass, you have guilt because now you have time to sit down and reflect on what that day looked like, and you're like, fuck, gosh, was I not present enough? Was I too mean? Why? My kids, today's another day that they're closer to caring about me less and decentering me as their world, which is what we want. But so much of our lives, we live and we sleep and we wake up and we sleep and we repeat. And then, 5, 6, 7 years pass and you have a teen who doesn't want to hang out with you anymore, right? So yeah, I feel a lot of guilt about basically the time that I spent with my kids, and I think that's normal. I think if you were to sit down and talk to any mother, she would probably share the same feeling. Stay at home, work from home, working in an office. Those are 3 very different categories of moms that I often feel constantly pitted against each other. They have very different emotional guilt, right? If you're a stay-at-home mom, you feel like maybe you're not providing enough for them. Maybe you're not cool enough, or you're not showing them a good example of what they should, kind of try and achieve in life. When you're a work from home, stay-at-home mom, it's, well, did I give them enough attention? Did I balance it right? They were alone. They're not in daycare, but they're also not engaging with anybody. So how's that affecting them? And then when you're in an office, it's oh God, I only see my child for 2 hours a day. I wish I could be with them all day. So there's different emotional chains tied to the type of mom you are. And I don't think it's necessarily healthy for everybody to kind of constantly pit those 3 types of moms against each other. I think if anything, we all need to kind of sit in solidarity and say, look, I get it. Your struggle is hard. My struggle is hard. We're here. I'm here for you. Yeah, I get it. I get not feeling like you're contributing enough. Like, I get feeling like you're not seeing your children enough. I get feeling like you're there but not there. Like, I get that. I think as moms, we just need to kind of rally around each other and reach out to communities and groups and friends. The mommy friend you met, or the friend you met at work, or the coworker you have, over Teams or Slack. Communicate with them, talk to them, reach out. The community is what you make it. And in order for you to make it, you need to put effort into it. There is no winning version of motherhood. There's just the version that you work through, and that is enough, and that you are enough, and your kids think the world of you. And if your kids think the world of you and you're showing up every day, then anything else and everything else can go screw itself, in my personal opinion. So another thing that I notice is that, like, the people that ask me about my needs and how I'm feeling and how I'm doing and if I need help aren't non-parents, right? Like, my friends who don't have kids don't really care how I'm doing. But the ones that do, the friends that have kids who are the same age or older, they're the ones that show up. They're the ones who are like, are you okay? Do you need me to come over and help with bedtime? Do you want me to hold the baby for a bit so you can have a break? Do you want me to play with, have the kids come over and do a play date so you can kind of relax? Like, those are the people, like, other moms who are in it are the ones that get you. And I think that's a universal language, right? You don't really understand something until you're in it. Like, if you go to jail, your friends who've never been to jail won't understand what it's like to be in jail. But the friends that you met in jail get it. And I think that's kind of what motherhood is like. Those who are not in it won't get it, but those who are will. And so that's why it's really important to show up for new mothers who are in it. So if I, though, could be seen, I think the way that I feel seen, and I've had a few friends, newer friends in motherhood who have done this, it's just to ask if I need a helping hand. I'm probably going to tell you, no, I got this. I'm very protective of my children, and I'm very protective of the time that I have with them. But I like being asked if, they can take something off my hands, be it holding my baby, or, having, my daughter come over for a play date, or inviting me out for a lunch without the kids, just so that I can kind of feel like an adult woman again. I really enjoy that. There's something empowering about knowing that you have someone there for you. And so even myself, like with new mothers, I really try and be that voice of like, hey, I don't want to touch your baby. I don't want to take your baby. I don't want to come over and see you because you just had a baby. I want to come over and make sure that you're okay. I want to make sure that you feel seen. How are you doing? I know the baby's taken care of. I know that everybody's looking at your baby. I'm not worried about your baby. They have you. I know you're taking great care of your baby. But who's taking care of you? And I know that, like, with me, I would love if I like had a baby with just be able to hold my baby, not have people offer to hold my baby so that I can get things done. Because that's my baby. I want to hold my baby, right? I just birthed them. I just held them for 9 months. And so I have had a few friends who have had babies recently, and that's my first thing. I'm like, I don't want your baby, girl. I can hold your baby in a few months. I'm good. Tell me what you need me to do for you, and I'll do it for you. Laundry, you need me to wash your dishes, you want me to go pick up some groceries, I will do that for you. Want me to like make you laugh while you hold your baby and like admire them? Want to cry while you hold your baby? Totally do that. Just know that like that's how I'm going to show up for my friends, be it a new mother, a veteran mother. That's just how I'm going to show up for you. Cut. all in all, though, I think through everything that I've said, there is something to be said about motherhood that makes you so incredibly versatile and so incredibly durable. Motherhood has strengthened me in ways that I couldn't have imagined. It's made me a much more protective woman. It's made me much more opinionated woman. I think my husband would probably say I am probably grumpier, but it's not necessarily that I'm grumpy as much as I'm just not willing to put up with things, right? And that could be tied to my age, but that could also just be tied to the fact that like I'm a mom now and I don't want to put up with these things because I'm just trying to get through the day and I'm trying to make sure that my kids are taken care of, and my focus is my kids, which means everything else needs to either catch up or fuck off for all intensive purposes. It's also made me a much more thoughtful person. I think especially with all the news that's happening in the world, you hear the politics, you hear the vaccine talks, you hear the talks about all these, children getting taken, and it's like you become almost paranoid in a sense of like, gosh, am I protecting my children enough? Like, am I looking everywhere? I go to Target with my 2 kids alone, and you best believe I have a resting bitch face, and I'm giving everybody a glare because in my eyes, everybody is a predator. If some man who is, 50, he could be fine and harmless, but like also he could be a low down secret pervert. And in that sense, I think, especially with regards to that, I think I'm definitely aggro. Like, I do not mess with people and my kids. I do not like people touching my kids. I do not like, I'm very protective. I would say I've become much more protective of what's mine. But I also think another part of me that's strengthened is that like I can be silly, but in a different way. Like when I'm playing with my daughter, sometimes it's like I get to be a kid again with her. I get to pretend that we're playing with like the little people characters, and I'm just in that moment with her. Or like she loves to play dress up, so like I get to just pretend to be a dress up princess kitty cat. I don't know. That's what she's into. I'm also a deeper person. I think about how the world affects others a little bit more intensely, be it politically or non-politically. I can't help but like look at another mother who might be struggling because their child's sick and just like break for them. I can't, like, I'm literally scrolling on TikTok and I'll come across this video of someone's child who's sick or something that happened, and I'm just there crying with them because when one mother cries, we all cry. So I definitely think I'm much more empathetic now as well. But I'm also learning to let go of failure. I think every day when we talk about what we regret and the guilt, like if I couldn't let go of the fact that like yesterday I felt like a piece of shit mom for not paying enough attention to my children, then I would probably cycle into a deep depression. But when you learn to let go and you learn to kind of just be like, you know what? Yesterday was yesterday. Today I'm going to try to be very present for my children, or try to be a little bit more present for my kids. It really does help make the journey of motherhood, as you're like trying to rear these children, easier. And also friends will make it easier too. And I think I'm now in a place where like I've had my 2 kids. I've had my boy and a girl. My son is now starting to turn 1, so he's starting to like want to walk around, and like I really like the toddler years, like that 1 to 2, that when they're like 1 and they're not yet 2, like that 1 to 2 year age is my favorite because they're just so sweet and cuddly still, but like they're exploring and they're less dependent on you. And then my daughter is now in like the 2.5 to 3-year-old stage, but she's super talkative and super silly. So like she's doing her own thing. And so like this new season of motherhood feels like it's less unbearable. And I say unbearable in the sense of like, I feel like I'm actually catching a breath, or I could catch a breath. Obviously, I'm still like super exhausted and my days are super, super stretched thin. And I'm actively like trying to like put myself first every so often. But I can't help but think about this time next year and like how much lighter I'm going to feel because I don't have two little babies kind of stuck to me. And look, I'm going to say it. We all have those ages we love. I do not love newborns. This is just not my thing. I don't like the baby years where like that like just born to about like 8-9 month range. This is just not my thing. I don't like how needy it can get, but I love them and I think it's sweet. And I've cried for my son growing up so fast in those periods. Just because when you have a second, it goes so much faster and it like, you feel like you didn't even get to enjoy it. So like, again, you can not like something and still very much be appreciative of it and appreciate it, which I think is something that the mother community or the mom talk community can get a little wishy-washy on. It's like, no, you can hate something and still appreciate it. There's how many women out there who have a love-hate relationship with an ex-boyfriend, and that's okay. So like we can't have that feeling with motherhood. I say bullshit on that. So I think in terms of that, I would say I'm not lost. I'm evolving. I'm still very much in this transitional phase of motherhood where like the little baby years are very much for them, and as you shift out of those years and you get more and more comfortable with like stepping away from them for a little bit, I think that question of like who you are outside of being a mom to them and outside of your career can start to blossom, or like I guess you can start to pour some more water onto that, and really kind of like explore what that might look like. Motherhood is heavy, but it's also so beautiful. And it's definitely something that I think we can all agree we would never like change for a million years. But again, that's the rewiring of what happens to mothers, right? You can literally have shit thrown at you and you're still like, woo, I love this. Keep it coming. And that's why some of y'all have 6 babies. You loved it so much that you had 6, not shaming, but yeah, I'm good at 2 right now. Maybe there's one in the future. I don't know. Right now I am so good at 2. But I give props to those moms who are toting around 4, 5, 6 kids. I think that you are an immensely strong person. And ain't nobody gonna be able to do it as good as you. So I want the moms listening to this to understand that you're not failing. You're just carrying a lot. You're allowed to miss yourself and love the life that you have now. You're allowed to make space for yourself outside of your children, outside of your household, outside of your career. You're allowed to explore what that looks like. And take it from me as someone who like has had almost like 2.5 years of not doing that. Like you need it or you're gonna go crazy. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at now. I think for me moving forward, I'm definitely actively going to try and carve a space out for me so that I can show up as a more fulfilled and well-rounded mother for my daughter and my son. And yeah, and my friends, because, you know, we need them. All right, guys. So I'm Jay. Thanks for listening. If you resonated with any of this or if you have rebuttals, Definitely let me know in the comments down below, like and subscribe. This is a series, so I'm going to be talking about different aspects of motherhood, the good, the bad, the ugly, the beautiful, and just kind of navigating what those emotions might look like for me. And if you guys resonate, definitely let me know. I'd love to hear what you guys think. All right, bye.